Good spot, Happy.
Very good. You could put hobbit holes into those, and maybe the party field then is, you know, just over the back there.
When I first started working on Lord of the Rings, I told a chap who was a Lord of the Rings fanatic, and the first thing he said to me was, don't do it, you're going to destroy my world. And I suddenly had this realisation that whatever we did was going to affect millions of people.
Tolkien's novels, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, they're like the tip of an iceberg in the sense that this man spent more than half a century elaborating the languages, the peoples, and the histories, and creating this coherent, parallel, imaginary world.
There is tremendous responsibility then as the people charged with bringing Tolkien's literature and making it into visual art, that you've got to honour it so carefully.
From the very beginning, Peter said, I love these books, there are no shortcuts.
This is probably where we could stick the big statues down there somewhere, the Argonaut.
It's got to be right or not at all.
It is quite remarkable and telling that Peter Jackson should have gone to the two most successful Tolkien artists, Alan Lee and John Howe, so that when people see the film, they say, this is the Middle-earth I would always have pictured. This is the Gandalf that I'd always seen as I was reading the books. No, wasn't. This is the Gandalf you recognise from John Howe's and Alan Lee's pictures in their illustrations for the books which precede the film.
That bag end is designed after a John Howe painting. And it's a famous painting of Gandalf with that tree on the hilltop. So when we saw that, it's like, oh, that's Bag End. Of course it is.
We can credit a lot of other crew members, a lot of other creative people that obviously have contributed. But if you said what are the two names you would say are the most influential in terms of the look of these movies, there'd be nobody that would disagree. It would be Alan and John. They are the heartbeat of these films.
Everyone who's involved in these films, I think, feels that even if they're just painting fruit or they're making a spoon or they're making a dagger or an axe, they're investing it with story as well as their own kind of skills and craft.
This is a brand new sting. It's not the same sword as we used in Lord of the Rings, which has some elven runes down the blade. They're a gift from the elves from Rivendell when he returns between the two stories.
John and I both started this journey through the filmed version of Middle-earth in 1998.
Alan, you're always welcome on our set. Oh. Or your set, more to the point.
Working their way through the Lord of the Rings and then subsequently through The Hobbit. We both did it almost as an explorer, following the stories of our heroes through the book.
You might even make a parallel between what Alan and I did on this project and that sense of Bilbo traveling beyond the lands that he knew. We started out at home in Hobbiton, something we knew quite well, and then headed out into territory that we'd really never been before. I feel quite strongly about this whole notion of this imaginary journey running in parallel to your design process, even if it's just in sketchbooks and not on foot. And then by the time you get to Dale, it's like any place you haven't been. and you see it from a distance, and you've got a bit of an idea of what it's like, you know, a rough sketch. And as we get closer, we're able to elaborate. And then you realize that Bilbo's gone very, very far east for somebody with such short legs.
They could see in the wide valley shadowed by the mountain's arms, the grey ruins of ancient houses, towers, and walls. There lies all that is left of Dale.
Dale is possibly one instance where Tolkien doesn't provide very much information.
It's just a group of ruins that they pass on their way through to the Lonely Mountain. But there's not a lot of exposition on Dale itself as a culture. And so you start thinking about how it functions, what life would have been like there in its heyday.
I always felt that Dale was a place that the dwarves would take their merchandise and their goods to trade with because they didn't like direct contact with the elves. So we were using Dale as the sort of marketplace.
It's where all of the trade from the mountain came and went. All of the gold that came down out of the mountain, the stuff that we were mining came there and we traded.
Dale was the garden city of Middle-earth, really, and was a source of food for Erebor.
We were looking at a city of people who are well-cultured. They can afford the luxuries of fine silks and beautiful jewellery. You can kind of see how a culture like that and somewhere like Pompeii that we're familiar with share some common ground in that they have no worries. It was a land of plenty and a time of peace.
That was essentially where we were coming from, was to create a place that had a rich history and that, tragedy had struck.
You know, you need something to anchor your design concepts. So Peter's idea was that in Tolkien's world, they're travelling east. So in the period when Tolkien wrote this, travelling east would have been across Europe and into Asia. So that became our guiding design influence, that once you're over the Misty Mountains, you're actually into, outer Mongolia, and then you sort of get influenced by things like Tibet.
We're creating a kind of a mountain village or town, so we did look at areas where they would be building at high altitudes. We drew inspiration from some of the monasteries built on quite kind of rocky outcrops with gorges, and then all contained in a defensive wall.
There's an initial structure to all these buildings of stone, and then everything else is actually made of wood. So we ended up with all these projecting balconies like you get in places like Bhutan, Nepal.
But we didn't want to make it look too kind of obviously or oriental, or draw too strongly from a place that we would recognise. So went to towns in Italy, mountain villages.
The terrain literally dictates, how the architecture ends up looking.
We wanted to get in steep streets and a kind of tight labyrinthine feel that you get in hill towns.
If you take the actual architecture of Dale, it's almost as if you had an Italian hill town built by the Tibetans.
This is all good stuff. I mean, it's good stuff. I like all the little nooks and crannies.
There's a few different areas to run through. And, we built our model of Dale, and we talked to Peter about what we were going to shoot, where he was going to shoot, which way he was going to shoot.
They're a very handy tool for Peter and Dan and anyone who can see the models of what you're going to get on the day, because you can get your head down inside the little buildings and see camera angles, see where lights need to go. You can even choreograph action all through this.
We created a replica of the location that we were going to use. It was constantly kind of revealing itself to you. Turn a corner and you see a different aspect of it. So it actually felt a lot larger than it was.
Dale's probably one of our biggest sets, and it is too big to fit in the back lot. So we built the city of Dale up at Mount Crawford, which is up on the Miramar Peninsula, and it's about a 10-minute drive from Stone Street.
Of course, Dale isn't the first time we've been to Mount Crawford. We had Skull Island built there in the natives village for King Kong.
You could build so much of a practical city up there and then have the clear skyline, you know, behind you. So it served us well in the past.
We're up at Mount Crawford. This is day one. And we're going to have 100-odd men up here and be powering through it 24 hours a day. It's going to be everyone on the rock face, everyone working. City of Dale set. It's got 44 buildings in it, and it's quite tall. So the degree of difficulty is quite high.
Dale is by far the most impressive set I've ever shot on, to be honest. It was sort of on the level with the Minas Tirith set.
We shoot Dale twice, and this colour map is made so that we know which part we're building when. Now, all the pink is basically Dale pre-Smorg, and that's what we have to build first. We then basically have 3 weeks to turn the whole location around to be post-Smorg Dale.
It's a pretty old city, as you can see. We've got to make it look like it's been here a long time. So we've got to break our tiles and really shape it, crack them, lend a bit of authenticity to the whole thing.
You appeared to be walking on cobbled streets. These walls appeared to have been there for centuries. The flowers appeared to be real. They were real.
Dale was never a set that the Greens Department were going to be part of. Out of the blue, it got sort of changed and called to the Orchard City. Then we became part of it.
So what Dale we wanted to represent was the pure beauty of the natural world, the bounty of nature, the great orchards full of blossom, a sense of plenty, because then when it becomes a desolation and nothing grows there anymore, you've truly lost something.
And then suddenly, once Philippa sort of talked about, well, this was the Garden City, we tried to work out what things you could grow in that sort of environment and then added that to the set.
So we're coming to the end of summer here in New Zealand, and trying to find enough fruiting plants for the so-called Orchard City now is proving to be a problem. We're using artificial trees and we're putting real fruit on the artificial trees. We're using real trees and we're putting artificial fruit on the real trees.
Real lime tree, fake limes.
We've got about 16,000 sprays of artificial foliage, 3,500 apples, 2,000 pears, there's about 500 lemons, a couple of hundred persimmons, and there's 14,000 mulberries we've made.
So the foliage is bought from China and it's a mulberry foliage, and then we handmade all the mulberries with glue and beads.
The notion of it being an orchard village came about this whole other amazing architectural aesthetic that was neither Tibetan or Venetian, it was Dale.
So this is a little bit like a vacation, because usually we're chained to our desks. But this afternoon we slipped our shackles and taking a little touristy walk around Dale.
Okay, did you get the keys for the chalet?
Yeah. No, I thought you had them.
Did you pick up the sheets from reception?
No, I thought you had all that.
No, I thought you were doing it.
No,
honestly,
no.
John. No, not going holiday with you again.
One of the interesting things about John and Alan was they worked together in the same room for all of Lord of the Rings, and then another room for all of The Hobbit.
It's not bad. Do you reckon we can get two in there?
John and Alan have been part of it right from the beginning and are lovingly referred to as the Tolkien twins, I think, because they're always together, but they're so different.
It's a little bit like the Hare and the Tortoise. He had a tremendous amount of kind of nervous energy, and I quite enjoyed my solitude and quietness.
I'm more of a morning person, Alan's more of a night owl. So the last person leaving Weta would probably be Alan, and the first person arriving would probably be me.
Another thing with John is that he has to deal with everything immediately. So if he gets an email, he will answer it immediately. I tend to put things off a little bit.
A long time ago, when I was in, I guess, just finished high school, I wrote a letter to Alan. Dear Mr. Alan Lee, I very much admire your work. Probably asking for some kind of advice.
Unfortunately, I didn't reply. Not because I didn't wish to, but I just, I tend to lose letters.
And he hasn't replied yet. He's promised me a reply, which I hope one day I'll receive.
Which he keeps reminding me about.
Alan often thinks he'll reply, and he's kind of replied in his mind, but he hasn't really replied for real.
Sometimes you would wonder if Alan actually knew which day it was.
So now it's July 19...
See,
That's a good start.
1985.
Apart, he would always know because, Wednesday night is tango.
I have one extracurricular activity that kind of takes me totally out of my work frame of mind. I do Argentinian tango. I think that's kept me sane, actually, over the last 4 years being here.
He's such a gentleman, of a bygone era. And the tango definitely works for him.
John needs to go out running every day. At lunchtime, he'll sort of charge off and run around the coastline of Miramar. Often with a troop of others that he's recruited from the ranks of Weta Digital, sort of panting in his wake.
And he's going out, on the weekends and does these, massive hikes. And I told him, I said, John, do you go out with anybody? He goes, no, it's just me. I said, well, do you let anybody know where you're going? Because, people get lost, trip and fall, and we're going to lose John Howe.
Alan and I, there's certainly not two copies of the same person, I hope. Although, after spending years and years together, I'm sure some may have rubbed off.
It occurred to me that John, he was so different from me that it was almost as if we were merged into one. We'd be one completely normal human being.
People already call me Alan and you John. It's going to get worse.
People do make that mistake.
Confused.
I'm still waiting, Alan. Waiting for that letter. I'll send you my address again, just so if you wish to reply, make sure I get it.
I believe that there's a film crew shooting something in this town. Yeah. It must be a documentary.
I recognise Andy Serkis.
Is that Andy?
Show, yeah.
Is that Andy Serkis?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd love to get an autograph.
I'll give you one.
Okay, deal. I'll settle for that.
Give me a D! Give me an A! Give me an L! Give me an E! Put it together and what do you got? Yeah, well, let's see it then. Come on!
Basically, our job is to tell the whole story of prosperous and happy Dale, and then its sudden destruction by smog, all in about 20 seconds or less.
Put me in costume, I'll just ride the carousel all day. It'd be lovely.
It's one of the ironies of filmmaking that a lot of work goes into something that might last on screen for only a short amount of time. The art department spends weeks, if not months, creating this masterpiece, and we try and do it justice.
We try and impart on a place like Dale the character of the people who live here.
So to do that, you need detail. You need all those little things that mean something, that tells you this is a fantastic place, it's a beautiful place, the people are all happy, they're all fed, it's all good here.
Finest quality, handmade toys.
The toy market of Dale was the wonder of the North.
It was a key dressing pointer for us to create the toy market theme in the set somewhere. We had quite a bit of space to do it, so we filled the central courtyard with wooden toys. And there were kites and fabulous things for younger children. The thing about this city is that there are so many different little nooks and crannies that if you were here for 3 months filming it, you probably wouldn't see everything. Like, there's frescoes in the strangest places. And our potter made close to 8,000 little individual tiles that were beautifully laid on the set.
It was very good for me to see it in its heyday, so that I had some sort of memory of something beautiful and the stories I'd heard about Dale in my head, and it really did look fantastic.
And it was just like walking around this Tuscan village on a hillside. There was a working merry-go-round that my daughter went on, and it was all just delightful.
So I think the restaurant I reserved is over that way, but I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll check that side.
If you kind of switched part of your mind off that knew you were in a movie, it was like you had stumbled across some weird ancient European civilization in New Zealand. It was kind of strange.
Please imagine these ramparts overlooking the amazing vista towards Erebor, not a green screen, a pine forest, and Greater Wellington.
It was weird. Up on the parapets, you could get right up and look down over the seat of Dale, which is this old Eastern European, really, really amazing place. And then you turn around and you look out towards Wellington Harbour, and there's this modern metropolis of Wellington City just across the harbour.
And what's hilarious is these planes were coming into land. So if you were on the left-hand side of the plane and you had good eyesight, you'd wonder what the hell was being built up there, because it looked like a medieval town was being built on the top of this Mount Crawford.
We can't describe what it's like to be in a place like that, because it doesn't happen very often.
And that's the sad thing, is that, I mean, I would just love to come and do more and more days up here. But that's it, that's the thing. The next time you see it, it'll be absolutely razed to the ground. Everything will be burnt. There won't be any of this feeling of it being this living orchard, this, you know, this market garden centre of Middle-earth. I have to say, though, it's the sort of place that you really would want to come on holiday to, in this state.
And suddenly we're in a different world.
We're in a very different world. It's not exactly a vacation spot anymore, is it?
You'd think it would be heartbreaking to have to go and destroy really good work, but you're still actually creating. This act of destruction was kind of quite satisfying in a strange sort of way.
We're burning material to make it look like Smaug the dragon's been through and destroying the place, so it's dragon damage detail. Seriously though, you've got to try and make it look like something. It's got to be burnt enough to be burnt, but still look like it's actually an object.
And then we go and put it back in the window frame.
We talked about where else in the world this sort of devastation has happened, you know, a lot of it relating to firebombing, you know, Dresden, everything that could burn burnt, but the stonework was left.
So what we're looking at with these buildings is there's various fireballs have actually gone through the roofs of these buildings, and then basically the buildings have burnt from the inside out.
As we were doing our research for a ruined city, one of them is Stalingrad, and there was this fantastic photograph I saw of a bronze statue of children dancing, and it's slightly bent and slightly melted. I got this huge feeling of sorrow and tragedy, and the statue was so evocative that we used that as an influence for the whole carousel merry-go-round element.
The other place that comes to mind with this is Chernobyl, and how it's just been untouched now for 25 years, and everyone just left. Everyone ran from Chernobyl when the reactor exploded.
People had no time to collect their belongings or anything. They had just fled and let nature take over again.
I really just wanted to capture that feeling. One day everything was happy, and then within minutes it was destroyed, and that's how it had been for years.
Happy place full of laughter.
It was beautiful before. It's an amazing job, amazing. But as Peter says, this is what happens when you let a film crew into your house. So, be warned.
I thought it might be quite good is that you guys take a beat here, and you know, some of you could just, you know, walk into here, looking around, and look into the doorways, look at, you know, kind of just for a beat or two, you know.
We shot a few sequences of the dwarves arriving at Dale, so it was like the first lot sort of walking through and seeing what had happened and the reveal of the dead inhabitants of Dale.
And all around you'll see the charred bodies of actors who haven't quite made the grade on the film.
A lot of influence and reference for Dale was Pompeii. So we had these bodies that had been burnt and frozen in time, and we really wanted to capture that feeling that people were mid-movement when they died. There was a foreground shot of one of these characters completely incinerated but cradling her child in the foreground. And we sort of shot past that and onto Martin as he walked past and he saw them.
It was just awful. You know, you'd see charred children's toys and, you know, evidence of what had been a bustling, sort of lovely village life. And lovely. It looked like it had been blitzed. I mean, it looked awful.
Dale was nice when it was beautiful. It looked very, very pretty. But I kind of preferred it when we trashed it, I have to say. That was the Dale I preferred, the creepy kind of spooky one.
I think the set finishers and, well, everyone involved really has just done a fantastic job on this set.
Even enormous sets, like the set of Dale, which was a huge set as far as sets go, is actually a very tiny little section of Dale itself.
We did have to create a digital Dale in which we could locate our main kind of courtyard set and the Great Hall.
One of the sort of starting points for us was that Alan Lee did this sort of map of Dale.
Kind of starting off with our set right in the middle. He actually drew the roads and main kind of blocks of housing.
And with that, we were able to then break that map down and figure out where action played within that map.
We needed to very quickly build this entire area, and so I sat down with Alan Lee and we took 1 week and we built all of Dale and the surrounding valley, including this little bit of Ravenhill and the whole Erebor Gate.
If you look at this particular shot here, we're just going through and we're finding specific areas within the city that we can set things up. Now, some of these are based on the live-action set, so we're using the live-action set for the models and whatnot. And then we want to be able to see Erebor from here. We want to be able to see Ravenhill from this section. And from that, we go through and start, you know, figuring out like where these live-action plates are going to live within the set.
So the layout model would be quite kind of simple, and then we would provide more detailed drawings, and each building would be individually modeled.
We sort of built maybe, you know, 24, 25 hero buildings that you could sort of turn, kind of like what they would do, again, on set. If you turn it this way, the facade's slightly different, it's stained differently, so you can have a lot of reuse out of them, and you sort of use it to populate the whole city, so it seems quite a lot larger than it actually is.
It was actually a very successful CG model. It's one of the things I was most pleased with, really. But then Dale was quite an amazing experience, remarkable set, where you can imagine yourself in a totally far-flung part of the world in a different time.
I've never seen anything like it. And I've worked on good things, and I've worked on things with fantastic sets, and nothing has surpassed what Dan and his whole army did, you know.
And all the time the actor could put on the side of his script NAR, no acting required, because there it was. We didn't have to act where we were. It was absolutely believable.